everyone, I'm Shaina Jamdagni and today I'm going to tell you about German conjugation. So, in German, conjugation is basically how we use different verbs with different pronouns. So, let's start. I'm going to mention the heading. So there are a few rules that we have with each and every pronoun. So pronoun is known as Pronomen in Deutsch. And we have ich, which is I, du, which is you, es, sie. It is respectively for he, it, and she. So we have a small s for z. Then we have wir, which is we. Then ihr, which is for you all. Then we have a capital Z, a Z with a capital S, which stands for you when we are talking with a elder person. So this is used when we are talking formally, and du is used when we are talking informally, like with our friends or with our relatives and our family members. And Z is used with respected individuals, and when we are talking formally with someone. Then the next we have again Z, which is also with a small s. So this Z means they. Now, how can we get to know in a sentence that when we are talking about which Z, this one or this one? Because both start with a smaller s. We will get to know when we use different verbs. So every verb has been used differently with each of the pronouns. Like, let's start with a simple one. Sein. Sein is a verb which means to be. So with ich we have bin. Bin means am. So it is I am. Then we have du, which is bist. So this means with du bist means you are. Now as z would be is. And for wir we have sind. For ihr we have seid. And for both the z also we have the same, which is sind. So this is the conjugation for the verb sein. This is the most basic verb that we use in almost every sentence. For example, if I make a sentence, ich bin 12 Jahre alt. So this means that I am 12 years old. Now with du bist, the sentence could be it could be an interrogative sentence like bist du 12 Jahre alt, which means are you 12 years old? With sie also we can form sentence like sie ist 12 Jahre alt, which means she is 12 years old. So with wir, ihr, and sie also we can make similar sentences. So out of the pronouns, these three pronouns are used for singular, while the other rest, which is wir, ihr, sie, and sie, these are all used for plural, except the capital one because it also means you. So wir, ihr, and this sie, they are used for plural, while ich, du, sie, and the capital S Z, they are used as singulars. The next we have is also a common verb that we use, haben, which means to have. Now, this verb has a very easy conjugation. So, ich habe, du hast, sie hat, wir haben, ihr habt, HABT, sie haben. Oops. haben. So for wir and these two Z, the conjugation remains same, which is haben only. And in all conjugations, it remains the same for wir, sie and sie. Now, this is also one of the most common verb that is used in sentences, which is to have, like ich habe ein Bleistift, which means I have a pencil, or du hast ein Kuli, you have a pen. Then we can make more sentences using these. So, now the verbs are of two types. One is regular verbs and the other is irregular verbs. Now, how do we differentiate between them? Irregular verbs are the verbs in which the endings, they are different each time. By that I mean to say is, like the verb we have is sein. So sein isn't used each time, right? It's been using, we have used bin over here, bist, we have used ist, then over here it becomes sind, and then here it becomes seid. We are not using sein over here. So the main verb that is, it's changing each time. It's conjugating. While the haben verb that we have here, so this hab, H-A-B, we are using it each time. Right? We're just conjugating the last letter. So we have E at the end here, we have T at the end here, and then over here also. So there's a rule that we use with all the regular verbs. While the irregular verbs, they don't have any such rule. You just have to learn them by heart. So the rule that we have for all these verbs is also quite simple. So what we do while using the pronoun ish, the verb will use the verb and then it would end always with an E. Like for harbor, we had H-A-B and it ended with E. Similarly, if I had to have a word, the verb common. Common means to come. So when I will conjugate with ish, we would remove this N and the verb would be common. Now with do, our verb always ends with st. So like if I use this verb only common, with this E would be removed and we'll have st, const. Similarly, for RZS, it would end with a T. So means this S would be removed and we'll have only T. It would be cont. Then when wir and these two Z, it always remains the same. This means that the verb, which was earlier common, this would read common only. It won't change. So for wir, it would end with en, and similarly for these two also, it would end with en. Now for ear, we use t only. It all ends with t, like just in the case of RZS. So these were the rules. Now let's come up to the next set of verbs. Now I have another common verb which is heißen. Heißen, which means to be called as. So whenever we are trying to introduce ourselves and tell our names, we always use the verb heißen. For example, ich heiße Shaina Jamdagni. This means that I am called as Shaina. Now, most of the time in English we say the sentence like I am Shaina Jamdagni. If we literally translate it into German, it becomes Ich bin Shaina Jamdagni. But that sentence is not correct. We do not use it in German. Rather, we say Ich heiße Shaina Jamdagni. We use the verb heißen. So its conjugation would be like the rule we just did. The verb would always end with E and the starting would remain same. So it becomes heiße. And for do, it ends with st. So heiß would remain heist. So it would become this. But do you think this is correct? Obviously not, because we know that this special character means double S. So obviously if we write this word, it consists of 3 S's, and that is absolutely not possible. Therefore, there's an exception for this. We don't put an S. We only put a T. So it becomes heist. Now the same is used over here with RSE. It becomes heist only. With wir, the verb remains same, which is heißen. With ear also, it will become heist. And with z and z, it will become heißen, like we are using with wir. Now let's come up to the next verb, which is wohnen. Wohnen is a verb which means to live. Now wohnen is also a regular verb, so it has the same conjugation rule. So it comes ich wohne, du wohnst, sie es wohnt, wir wohnen, then ihr wohnt, and sie wohnen. So this is also one of the most common used verbs. So these are basically the verbs that I'm telling you right now. These are used when we are introducing ourselves. There are a lot of verbs like we have in English. In German also there are many verbs. So obviously I can't cover them all. Therefore I'm telling the main ones that we use it in most of the sentences. Now the next I'm going to tell you is let's say trinken. Trinken means to drink. And then we'll do essen. Now these two verbs are used for trinken, which means to drink, and essen, which means to eat. So trinken also has the same conjugation. So it becomes ich trinke, du trinkst, sie es trinkt, wir trinken, wir trinken, so wir trinken, then ihr trinkt, and sie trinken. Okay, now let's go to the next verb, which is essen. So essen is a irregular verb, which means to have a different conjugation. So it would become ich esse, du isst, sie es isst, and then wir essen, ihr esst, es esst, and then essen. So this is the conjugation for these two verbs. Now I told you about the other verb common, which means to come. So common is also a regular verb, so it would have this, it will follow the conjugation rule that we applied. So there are many irregular verbs also, and there are many regular verbs. So we have to remember which ones are the regular verbs so that they can follow the rule of the conjugation, and the irregular verb, like they don't. So there's only one thing left to do, that is memorizing them. And memorizing it actually helps, because in questions, now I'll give you a few sample questions of how it comes. Usually they ask you to, they give you the verb, like if I have a sentence, ich dash Tina. Now either they would give you the verb which you have to conjugate, or you'll have to think about it yourself. But this is a quite common question, so quite obvious as well, but still I'm writing the verb. So heißen is my verb. Now we have to conjugate it. So what we'll do is, first we'll see the pronoun. The pronoun is ich, so obviously that heißen, it will be, when it will be conjugated, we'll put it heiße. We'll conjugate it according to the pronoun. Okay, now that was the example for first person. Now let's go to second person. For example, sie ist dash Jahre alt, and the verb that is given is sein. So we know the conjugation of sein. Now sie is given. Now whenever sentence starts, whether if it is Z or Z or Z, means they, if it's they, or it's you, or if it's she, how would we get to know? Usually when we have, like, if I have a sentence like Z is so this sentence actually means she is strict. So Z is. Now since I have a capital Z with a capital S, so I got to know whether this is she or if it's they by seeing the verb. Because I've used ist, and ist is the conjugation of sein for this one, for this Z, which means she. Therefore, I got to know that this sentence means she is. String is a new word which means strict. So strict. So Z is strict. She is strict. Now in this sentence, obviously we won't take it as they, because they is not a correct sentence. So in this sentence, what you can do is you can try to convert it into English. Usually converting into English is not a very good option, but in simple sentences like this, where you can actually translate it, you can do it. Like if I translate this into English, it would be she dash 13 years old. Now why did I take she? Because if I had taken it as they, and then I use the conjugation for they, which is sind, right? Z and Z. These are two Z's. One is for they and one is for you. And if I had taken it as a feminine, means she, then it will come as ist. So this was for second person. We could have also put it, instead of Z, we could have written is 13 Jahre alt. And for S because it, so dash klein. I've used the verb sein. Now S dash klein means it dash klein means klein is an adjective which means small. So obviously it would be it is small, so ist. Es ist klein. Now the second person example is done. Now let's move on to our third person. So let's take it as wir. Wir dash so now the verb that is common. Now aus. Now there are a few rules about which preposition that we have to use with the verb, which I'm going to tell you after we solve this question. So common, because we have wir, so common will remain common only, because with wir the conjugation remains the same as the verb. So wir kommen aus Deutschland. Deutschland is Germany, right? Now, like when I used common, I use the verb aus. So usually when we use the verb common, like ich komme aus Indien, which aus is used, like it is used as from. So we with common we use from. Then when we are using the verb wohnen, we usually use in. So ich wohne in Delhi. And otherwise we can also use bei, which means to reside with, or bei, like ich wohne bei meine Großmutter, which means I live with, or I live by my grandmother. Now these are a few verbs that I just told you: heißen, kommen, sein, haben, and then there are more like liegen, which means to be located, then schlafen. There are a lot of verbs that we can use. So these were all the conjugation and how different verbs are used in a sentence. Now one thing is that we always have to remember while framing a sentence, that first when you have the subject, the basic structure of a sentence is subject plus verb plus object. So this is the basic structure of any sentence that we form. So in German we have to remember that the verb will always come in the second place. Be it a sentence like Ich heiße Shaina, or if it is Ich bin 12 Jahre alt, or if it were Sie ist sie ist krank, or if it, so any sentence like this, we'll always see that the verb like heiße, bin, is, it's always come in the second position, because verb always comes in the second position. But there are a few exceptions, like when we are framing a question. For example, du ein Bleistift. This sentence means, do you have a pencil? So we'll see that hast. Hast is a verb, so it's coming in the first position. So whenever we are forming a question, so like do you know or do you have, so at that time the verb would come at the first place instead of the second place. So that is the rule for forming sentences. Now there are many times that the sentence also comes at the last position. That is when we have two verbs, when we have a modal verb and another verb. So let's leave that for another video. So I hope you understood conjugation and the sentence structure that I just explained, and I hope it helps. Thank you for watching.